Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. This is episode number 76, the 2023 NL East preview. And once again, we've got another full panel tonight. I'm really excited to have such a large group tonight. Jason and Joe are on as always, and we also have Ron and Todd back as well from previous episodes. Guys, how's everybody doing tonight? Jason, what's up, man?
Hey, doing good. Opening day this week. Philly's looking to kick off their National League title defense, so going to be a good week.
All right, Ron, how you doing up there?
Good. Getting over a sinus infection, just ready for the opening day.
It's that season. I hate high pollen season. It's awful. Yeah. Todd, how are you?
I'm doing good. I am pretty excited. Opening day is only 3 days away. And I'm just excited. I'm ready to get the bad taste of what October was out of my mouth. I'm ready for a new one. Let's do it.
Dude, at least you didn't lose to the Phillies. That said, at least we got knocked
but at
out.
least you technically made it further.
The peanut winners, so it makes it smidgen better, I guess. Not really. Mainly because of a bet involved in a Harper jersey that I was sweltering in. Yeah. Turn around, Jason.
I remember that.
Nobody needs to see that garbage.
Hey, we're live. Okay.
Yeah, funny how that works. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. I'm ready to sort of try to keep the peace here tonight.
Joe, you have a task that's about as enviable as trying to be the moderator during any of the presidential debates over the last 8 years.
Joe's just going to end up being like the umpire. He's just going to be like the umpire today with the Philly spring training game. Just
I almost thought it was
randomly just like, all right, you're out.
You're out.
The nice thing is at least Joe doesn't have access to the mute buttons like I do. Yeah, Joe could totally turn this into an episode of PTI. Or Around the Horn, not PTI. Jeez.
Seems like a flaw in your plan here. I should have been the host for this one since you're not impartial.
Ooh, me impartial. You know what? I have to say, I do a better job than I ever thought I would before we decided to start doing this.
It's not saying much, though, is it?
Considering some of the calls I've made, yes, I think
pretty low there, pal. Bar's pretty low.
Well, it was a low bar. I won't deny that, but it could have been a lot worse. All right, so Joe, what are you drinking tonight? We'll go with reverse.
I'm drinking ice cold Miller Lite because I don't like Milwaukee, and opening day is this week, and we're playing Milwaukee, so. I'm ready to watch. I'm ready to watch Corbin Burns pitch really well and still lose a game on Thursday. So,
I mean, that would check out very consistently with Corbin Burns for the last couple of years. Todd, what are you drinking tonight?
Today I'm drinking a local brew by Rusty Rail Brewing out of Mifflinburg called Moose Snacks. It's a so-called peanut butter fudge golden stout, and this is a stout, believe it or not. And it tastes actually pretty good, albeit interesting, but always got to try something new and local. Always try.
Hey, I am always down for trying good new local brews. I need to get back out to Black Forest now that you mentioned it, because I'm sure they've got something different from the last time I was there. Ron, what are you? Yeah, I love that place. Ron, what are you drinking tonight?
Lemonade iced tea.
I guess that makes sense considering you're getting over sinus infection.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't have anything in my house right now either, so.
Oh.
That's fair. Jason, what do you have tonight?
So Todd and I did not plan this, but I am also drinking a Rusty Rail brew.
Nice.
I have the cheat day, which is the blackberry cobbler sour. I've had it a few times on the show. It is absolutely delicious.
Yeah, it's one you've recommended 8 times, and I just keep forgetting it every time I go to the grocery store to look for it. I do want to try that, though. I've got 2 tonight. To start off with, I've got a Sour Monkey because we're starting with the Marlins and the Nationals and USA losing the World Baseball Classic. I figure we'll get the sour stuff out of the way. And then after that, I'm going to be moving on to an inaudible. It's from Imprint Beer Company, and it is an English barley wine. So I'm excited to try that out. That was a birthday present from Alex. The kid got me just a whole bunch of random stuff he's never tried before, thought it would be good, and he has picked out an excellent selection of beers so far. May I just say.
All I gotta say is if any of you guys see the hard Mountain Dew out there, let me know where you see it at so I can go pick some up.
I second that. I'm looking forward to it.
I want to try it so bad. It looks so good.
Joe, question for you then. Since your usual thing is SoCo and Mountain Dew, are you going to put SoCo in the alcoholic Mountain Dew?
Oh, that's a good point.
Probably not.
Oh boy.
Just make it a double.
Yeah, I was about to say double or nothing, man. All right. So, Todd, I'm going to put you on the spot here very quickly. Something I've been meaning to drop on you and Logan if he were here tonight. Logan has been on with us a couple times before as well.
Joe.
But
You're supposed to keep the peace, Joe.
Just drink up, Joe.
Just trying to find his mute button already.
So Todd, I got to ask, man, what do you think about the NL Manager of the Year award from last year? Do you think they made the right call?
Well, bias aside, I was honestly surprised that he got it over Thompson, for obvious reasons. But it's kind of the same reasoning because both teams needed a culture shock. The beginning of the 22 season for the Phillies was a mess, and Girardi was the head guy of that. He got canned, and all of a sudden, look what happened. They run at the pennant. Before last year, the Mets had 2 years with Big Dick Mick Callaway, and then 2 years with Luis, I forget his name. But then Buck Showalter came in, and he turned that culture around big time. A 24-win upswing. What should have been an NL East title if the Braves would just go the fuck away. The Mets in 2021 were kind of a mess. After they traded for Javi Baez, which was kind of a disastrous trade, he turned that whole thumbs down thing, and it was a joke. And then 2022, Buck came in and said, we're all business, and turned that team around into one of the best teams in the National League East. So, I would have to say well-deserved. Obviously, my bias is showing here, but it really could have gone to either Thompson or Showalter, but Showalter did deserve that award.
Yeah.
Right.
And Todd, I don't even mind that Buck got the award because, like you said, he did turn that franchise around. My main issue is Thompson not even qualifying for in the top 3 with that, getting 7th place votes, things like that. That just made no sense at all to me. Because you're talking a guy who took over in early June with a club that is 7 games under 500, loses Bryce Harper for a couple months with a broken thumb, and they play at almost like a 700 plus clip the rest of the way. They had, I believe, the 2nd or 3rd best record from the time Thompson took over to the end of the season, behind, I believe, the Braves and Dodgers. But I could not believe that he was not one of the finalists.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was my big sticking point, and I think Jason was even surprised the amount of tirade I went on this last fall.
Yeah,
because I thought it should have been Thompson as well. Or of the 3 finalists, I had both Snitker and Roberts ahead, and I can't stand Dave Roberts. I had him ahead of Buck too because the Mets crapped the bed at the end of the year and lost it. For a team that had high expectations going in, I understand. You're absolutely right, Todd. I did not consider the turnaround from the 2021 Mets to the 2022 Mets. But that said, they fell apart straight up.
Right.
Logan's comments on that. As I am true to the orange and blue, my biased opinion is hell yes, in Buck we trust. In Buck's first year in Queens, he took a team that was under 500 to a team of 101 wins. With that turnaround, I think he's a no-brainer for manager of the year. However, one can argue that the Mets tanked at the end of the year, allowing the Braves to overtake the division and then crap out in the first round of the playoffs. I see the argument, but I would say he was deserving of the award. So,
and the thing to keep in mind here too is it's a regular season award, so the postseason runs had absolutely nothing to do with the voting.
Yeah,
if it was, then Thompson's almost basically a unanimous decision for that award.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. All right, so now that that's genuinely, I was curious to hear your thoughts on that. All right, so now let's move on to the World Baseball Classic. And guys, what an ending to a great tournament. I thoroughly enjoyed this thing the whole way through. Japan did knock off the United States, the defending champions, 3-2. Otani's pregame speech, he said, "Let's stop admiring them. If you admire them, you can't surpass them. We came here to surpass them to reach the top. For one day, let's throw away our admiration for them and just think about winning." So Trey Turner opened up the scoring for the United States, as he did so many times in the World Baseball Classic, with a solo shot in the second. Unfortunately for the U.S., Japan immediately responded in the bottom of the second with a solo shot from Murakami, and then an RBI fielder's choice from Lars Nootbaar. Japan tacked on an insurance run as well. In the fourth from Okamoto, he hit another home run, a really long shot. And then Schwarber brought it back within one in the eighth inning with a beautiful blast of his own. And then we had the matchup that you could only dream.
I think everybody was waiting for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Shohei Ohtani versus Mike Trout. Teammates, but bitter enemies for one game. Ohtani was just pumping 100-mile-an-hour fastballs past, at Trout. He was fouling him off. And then he threw what was best described by, I can't remember who said it, but the most beautiful Frisbee slider you will ever see on the 3-2 count.
Nasty.
He just swung right through it. That one of the filthiest pitches you will ever see in a game. And he struck out Trout. Japan's pitching, they won the game wholeheartedly. They limited the U.S. bats. We went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position and left 9 runners on base and ground into 2 double plays. The USA pitching was also wild. They allowed 8 walks, although considering 8 walks, the fact that we only gave up 3 runs with a not really a great pitching staff is pretty remarkable. The strike percentage, USA threw 55.5% strikes, Japan threw 63.4%. Here's the kicker. First pitch strikes, USA 45.7% strike on first pitch, Japan 57.9%. I mean, if you can't open by pounding the zone, it's going to catch up with you. Shohei Ohtani was named the World Baseball Classic MVP. Slash line 435, 606, 739. He tied the single World Baseball Classic record with 10 walks. He had a 448 home run, tied for the longest of the tournament. Was that tied with Schwarber? I can't
Probably.
Remember. Yeah, it would be logical. His record as a pitcher, 2-0 with 1 save, 186 ERA, 11 strikeouts, 9 2/3 innings. That's filthy, man. That's just filthy. They did announce that we will be having another World Baseball Classic that's going to be held in 2026. So slightly increased timelines, normally every 4 years. This last one was every 6 because of COVID and getting things restarted around the labor issues last year. So it's going to be a little quicker next time. Hey, I'm okay with that. This tournament was so great. Don't lose the momentum from that. Guys, the television numbers didn't lie. Worldwide, this thing was ridiculously well watched, and it's going on during the NCAA March Madness. All of the college winter sports are doing their tournaments right now. Hockey's doing their tournament right now. Wrestling finished up 2 weeks ago. NBA is starting to pick up heading into the final push into the playoffs. And, you've got the XFL going on right now, which I will freely admit I have not watched a game. But, for my friends who do watch the XFL, they said it's not bad to watch. The fact that the World Baseball Classic is pulling in these numbers, do not let that momentum go, baseball. Good God, you need all of the positive TV coverage you can get. So what a great tournament. Guys, do you have any other thoughts? Todd, in particular with you, I know you guys lost Edwin Diaz on that freak knee injury. That could happen celebrating anywhere. Robertson hurt his knee last year celebrating getting out of the wild card round for the Phillies. These kind of freak injuries just happen. But it could have happened during a regular season game. I don't blame the World Baseball Classic for this. But, given your perspective, you guys just lost your all-star closer that you paid $102 million for. Are you okay with the format and things as it is? Would you move it to a different time of year? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first things first, you have to understand the World Baseball Classic is incredibly good for baseball. I think this year has proven it, not just for the fact that it's incredibly exciting and great baseball as it is. I think I saw a stat. I don't know if it's 100% accurate. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but for the Japan-USA final, apparently 94.7% of all TVs in Japan were tuned to that game.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was absurd.
Too.
So, the numbers don't lie. This is great for baseball. I would like to see it in a different time of the year. Not so much for the fact that this is going on during spring training or right before the season, but more the fact that I feel like pulling players away from their teams during spring training kind of takes away from the kind of camaraderie that can build during spring training and into the regular season. And in the last episode, I think you guys had with James, he brought up the idea of putting it during the All-Star break and just getting rid of the All-Star game and no one watches anymore because it's kind of lost its luster. Wow. I'm honestly not against that. And as much of a baseball purist and traditionalist as I am, that takes a lot for me to say. And, a lot of the benefits of that is that it gives the players that are not part of the WBC more time to rest and get ready for the second half. There's a lot of upside to it. Like I said, I don't want to people that want to say, cancel the whole thing because of freak injuries. I'm like, you think freak injuries don't happen during spring training or the regular season or in the off season or things
We've seen it.
Yeah. Not just Edwin Diaz. Don't get me wrong. When I saw the news, I was floored. I was just distraught, But, these things happen. And, Jose Altuve breaking his thumb on a pitch, that happened too. It's just the way it is. What was it? Mariano Rivera losing an entire year shagging balls in the outfield before a game some years ago. That happens.
Yep.
So, these things happen, and this does not affect my viewpoints on the WBC. It's a great thing. I just feel like this isn't the right time of year to be doing it. But,
you might even get more star players participating if you have it around the All-Star break because look at that pitching staff of the US. It was terrible considering the rest of the teams. You have a guy like Shohei Ohtani who's pitching and hitting and all this stuff, and then you have the guys in the US where you're relying on Adam Wainwright as your primary starter. Waino has been solid throughout his career, but he's not an ace right now that the USA would need on their team.
Waino has been an ace for like 10, 15 years.
He's 40 years old now, too.
Yeah.
So, I actually like that idea that Jim had moving it to the middle of the season. Plus, we could have an international home run derby tournament. Just think of that.
That'd be cool. That'd be really
I would
cool.
like to see them bring over the I'd like to see them bring over the Japanese bunt competition.
I forgot about that.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be great.
I don't know how that would go over in America because America loves the home runs and the long ball, but that'd be fun.
It's like curling, but for baseball.
Spin it around. Call it part of the skills contest.
They just need to wear crazy pants.
Yeah.
Like nobody watches the NFL. Nobody watches the NFL Pro Bowl. Nobody hardly watches the NHL All-Star Game, but everybody likes to watch the skill contests. Make a skill contest. Make
It's like
that
an
part of it.
NBA.
Mhm.
Have like an outfield assist competition where you
Yeah.
have like targets for the outfielders to throw the balls at,
Yep.
and
Nasty ground balls in the infield. There's so many things they could do to
I
improve
think
it.
that would be a lot better. A skills competition.
yeah.
Keep the home run derby as the center of it. Like,
Yeah.
because let's face it, everybody loves watching the home run derby. People that hate baseball love watching the home run derby because it's awesome. So
It is.
The other thing with the WBC here is, we're trying to, or Major League Baseball is trying to shorten the games. Spring training, they've averaged between 2.5 hours or so. Every single game, essentially, of the World Baseball Classic went at least 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it did not feel like it because it was actually really entertaining with the kind of baseball that you had. So, I mean, letting the teams run out the dugout on the home runs, like it's just that kind of atmosphere. It was an entire playoff atmosphere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if what I would like to see Major League Baseball do, is if you want to have the pitch clock in the regular season because you have a 162 game season, fine, but take it away for the postseason, or take it away in like the 9th inning when it in like a 3-run or less game, something like that, because you're going to get more excitement and more entertaining baseball without having that in there.
yeah,
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad that the United States of Philadelphia showed up to play, especially in that championship game.
Yeah.
Trey
it's
Turner, man.
It's the only time I will root for Trey Turner, and I hope he used up a lot of his power.
Yeah, I hate to say it, man. I drafted Trey Turner in several fantasy leagues this year, so I need him to do well, except against Atlanta.
I did think that it was quite a choice to allow you, Darvish, to pitch to Kyle Schwarber again.
That swing was the same as the postseason.
I know. It was literally a mirror image.
Also, it was very surreal seeing Marlins Park with not only people in it, but like
Phil.
This is what it would
I think
look
they were
like
sold
potentially if the Marlins made the postseason.
I mean, I was looking. I'm like, I would love to see the attendance numbers because I'm thinking the attendance in just the World Baseball Classic at Marlins Park is possibly greater than the entire history of attendance for Marlins games there.
So speaking of worldwide TV viewing, to move from the attendance point, 65 million viewers worldwide for the entire Baseball Classic. 65 million.
Yeah.
Love it.
I just hope MLD doesn't run that into the ground chasing all the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Rob Manfred. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, I know. Logan's thoughts on the Baseball Classic. He said he does like the Classic. I'm not sure I like the timing of the tournament. In my opinion, there's no better honor than competing for your country. Simply amazing. Go USA. The competition was flat out fantastic. Now, shifting my patriotic mindset into a business perspective, I can understand why MLB owners, coaches, and fans panic at the possibility of injuries. Obviously, I never played professionally, but I did play at the NCAA level. I personally would find it difficult for a Major League Baseball player to prepare their bodies for stressful, meaningful, and impactful competition at the beginning of March. Personally, I would like to see this tournament in October or even November in a warmer climate or dome stadium. And Logan, we did talk about that last week as well. The problem is, if you put it there, you're going to kind of run into a reverse problem of what you have now. Either you're not going to get the guys that are in the playoffs if you have it in October. Like, that's going to be a straight out no from all the teams involved, and that's understandable. Or if you put it after the season's over, you're going to get guys that have been down for a month and trying to let their bodies heal from the rigors of the regular season and have to ramp back up quickly for a 3-week tournament and then go down again and then ramp back up quickly in a couple months again. I think it's more wear and tear in the body. So that's why I think either leaving it where it is or around the All-Star break and just give baseball an extended break in the middle of the season, like hockey does during the World Hockey Tournament or whatever that's called. I think that's the better solution, doing it there. All right, so let's move on to something I had to literally add quickly to the thing today because they just dropped today. The Braves are going to be the first team to release their City Connect uniforms this year, when I had originally heard that Atlanta was supposed to be pushed until next year, but apparently it's going to be this year. So this is a modified version of the 1974 feather alternates that Hank Aaron was wearing when he broke Babe Ruth's home run record. The white top of the royal blue sleeves. The number on the back, the name on the back is red. The number is royal blue with the white and red outline. The jersey has 715 on the inner collar, mimicking the graphic that flashed on the scoreboard as Aaron was rounding the bases. It also has "Keep Swinging," number 44 embroidered above the jock tag, as does the cap's underbrim, which is actually in the period appropriate green. I actually do like that about the caps. The front of the jersey has the A on the left-hand side while the player's number is on the right. Atlanta doesn't often have numbers in the front, so I actually kind of like that look. The feather on the arms has been changed to a triangle with a red diamond on the top, which is supposed to represent, quote-unquote, the peak of the crown, paying homage to Hank Aaron. In addition to the green underbrim of the cap bears the colors of the 74 uniform, the current A logo instead of the lowercase a. I kind of wish they would have left the lowercase a there. The white backing is in a triangle behind the logo that cuts through the panels instead of lining up at the edge of the panel, so I think that looks a little bit odd. Let me share my screen over here so you guys can see some pictures of these new uniforms. Here we go. Let me pull that up here. So here's Cunha wearing it. You can see a good shot of the cap up there, the green brim. And then there's the back with Spencer Strider. And you can see a good look here on the side with the triangle thing instead of the feather. And then that's the underside of the cap right there, the keep swinging. And that's the whole idea of the jersey, the front. Really, as far as the City Connect jerseys go, it's really not bad. We have seen far, far, far worse jerseys rolled out. I'm thinking immediately of the Dodgers and the Giants. Those were horrific. Those were, I think, two of the worst. Joe, what are your thoughts, man?
I don't hate them. They look pretty nice. I like the tributes to Hank. I think they did a good job with that part of it. It's a nice look. Like you said, we've seen far worse than this. I think they did a nice job with it.
Todd, what do you think?
I think they're pretty solid, especially as far as City Connect jerseys go, because I think they look the most like an actual uniform.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Giants and Dodgers and the Red Sox, which are that lemon yellow thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's just so, I understand. I forget what it's supposed to represent, but it's the Red
Boston
Sox.
Marathon.
It's not the lemon squeezers or whatever.
It's the Boston Marathon.
Oh, okay. Like I said, this is good. I do like the homage to the Hank Aaron days, especially on the sleeves. I can also appreciate Spencer Strider honoring the 70s look with the 70s facial hair. Very good.
Best mustache in baseball right now, dude.
But I would say as far as City Connect jerseys goes, they did a good job with this one.
What do you think, Ron?
I like it better. Those jerseys better than the Astros Connect jerseys or whatever. They look better.
Solid.
I like the color scheme around it too. It's nice. It's no baby blue, but
I do like the baby blues. I'm actually a fan of them. Atlanta even a couple years ago had baby blue alts that they would roll out occasionally. And I was always hoping that Atlanta and Philly would roll them out at the same time in a series, and they never did. I wish. Jason, what do you think?
I like it in my face.
He's talking about.
I'll say to let the listeners know, Ron's talking about the logo that was in the upper corner.
I just
not anything else, at least not that I know of. Oh
Jesus!
But no, for for the jerseys, I think they're solid. I would definitely have them top 5, maybe even top 3. Because to me, I like the way that they look similar to their retro throwback jerseys, just a little more modernized. I do still think the Astros are probably my favorite still as far as the Space City jerseys go. But yeah, no complaints really with the Braves one. Did you say or did they explain why they went with a green underside? That seems a little odd to me.
Yes, because that's what the Braves wore in the 70s. Their hats were green undersized. So it's
Gotcha.
it's actually a period accurate representation of a hat, which I'm shocked that
Gotcha.
Figure out.
Kind of like the green underside.
Because it just looked weird and like it just really stood out. Like it was almost one of those like one of these things is not like the other type of scenarios. But
yeah,
if that's still a throwback to the 70s, then sweet.
Yeah. So why they released it this year? Because next year would have made a lot more sense because next year is the 50th anniversary. I think it's because the stupid 4+1 rule. Because my assumption for Atlanta is it's going to be the home whites, the navy alts for the road, the grays for the road, and the red alts at home. So they would have lost that jersey altogether because they always wear the Hank throwbacks during Hank Week. And they always wear them when the Brewers come into town as well. So my guess is they pushed this up a year and released it like this so it could remain in the uniform set so they wouldn't lose that alternate jersey. I have not seen any kind of official confirmation on that yet, and I'm sure Nike and the Braves will not release anything on it. But that makes sense. And you know what? If that's why they pushed it and this is what we're going to have for that, I'm okay with it. I like the look. I like the A. They've been using that as their thing for several years now. And I would like to note, it does not say Braves on there anywhere, and there is no Native American iconography on the uniform at all, which is a positive step forward, I think. And, for what they did on the sleeves, calling it, is that a little bit of bad wordplay on the part of Nike trying to force a story? Yeah, but that's what Nike does. So, but if they had to replace the feather with something, honestly, it's not bad. Yeah, for me, it's definitely at least top 5, top 3. I really like it. I'd have to look at all of them to do a thorough ranking of them. But if this is how we're going to start the 2023 season for City Connect, this is a good start. Much better start than we've seen in the past. I still, Jason, one of my favorites is still the Marlins.
Those are good.
Those are good.
Those are really good.
I'm pumped about those throwback jerseys that they're going to be wearing on Friday night games this year. Back to like the '93 Marlins teams with the teal and the
those
white.
Are sharp.
I love those. Oh my god, they should bring those back permanently.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did actually release the on-field debut for the remaining uniforms this season. So we'll probably see within a week before the on-field debut for these. The Texas Rangers on April 21st, the Seattle Mariners May 5th, Cincinnati Reds May 19th, because God knows Cincinnati needs something to celebrate this year. The Baltimore Orioles on May 26th, and the Pirates on June 27th. And that will be it for the releases this year. All the other teams that are left, I know off the top of my head, I know Phillies and Yankees haven't done it yet. And I keep, the Yankees, I swear, I hope they just run out in the same damn pinstripes and say, this is our City Connect. Screw you, Nike.
They've been the same forever, though.
Well, do you remember when they did Turn Ahead the Clock back in the late 90s? Okay, Turn Ahead the Clock was supposed to be like looking at the new millennia and things that would be like the Mets actually played around a lot. Todd,
the Mercury Mets. Yeah, I remember
that. And the Yankees in a press release said, why would we release? We're already wearing what we're going to be wearing in the future. Or words to that effect. And as history has proven, the Yankees are still wearing the same damn uniform they have for the last, I don't know how long.
The Yankees are probably the most established brand in American professional sports. There's literally no reason, no upside for them to change anything.
Yeah. And they are, by Forbes, they are the most valuable franchise in baseball, significantly. So, yeah. And the other thing I thought about these Atlanta uniforms is Atlanta tends to be very conservative with their uniforms as well. They don't tend to change around too much mid-2010s aside when they did some of that stupid stars and stripes things inside the logos. They don't really change much either. So I think it's a solid set.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I wasn't going to bring this up. And then Ron had to share a video in our fantasy chat earlier today of the most ridiculous ejection I have ever seen. I know Jason is ready to go off on this, so let me let me pull the video up and share it quick. As JT Real Muto got ejected.
Kimbrough says, I don't like that call. Now here's the action right here. And the umpire, like Realmuto, took his glove out of the way, and Realmuto didn't sense that the ball was on his face, so he just figured the umpire was throwing it back to the mound.
Now on the
that needs therapy, man.
Threw it out to Kimbrough. So all right, you don't feel the ball get nestled into your glove, so he wasn't even looking back at the umpire. He just pulled his glove down.
Kimbrough says, I don't like that call.
I mean, what the hell?
Gosh,
this is such an egregious dereliction of umpire duty. Like, what? It's spring training. How are you ejecting somebody? I mean, in the regular season, let alone spring training, for something like that. I mean, if you're throwing the ball back to the pitcher regularly, you don't expect the catcher's not going to wait for 5 minutes while you get a ball to put in his glove. He's going to assume that you're not giving it to him. He was not even looking at the umpire. It's like that they say that, they made the final cuts for the rosters today and yesterday. That umpire needs to be sent back down to the minors for some training, because I tell you what, he must have gone up on the wrong side of the dugout today. I mean, did he go to the Angel Hernandez School of Umpiring? There's just no reason for that. People do not pay their money for the ump show. They pay their money to watch the baseball games. You can't have umpires showing up players. There has to be accountability. Has to be.
My God, so stupid. It's just so bad. Why? I literally think JT pulled his glove away because he thought the umpire was getting ready to throw it back to the pitcher because he was taking so long to give him a baseball. That's literally what it looked like to me. A completely neutral fan who has absolutely no craps given in this game.
How do you not the umpire? How do you not even just talk to him before you do something like that? It's not like that. This was a thing that's been going on throughout the entire game. That there's this bad blood. Seek to understand. Why did you do that, JT? Oh, you thought I was throwing the ball back. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Not. All right, you pulled your glove down. See ya.
If I were the Phillies catchers, anytime this guy is umpiring for them, I wouldn't even give him a glove. Make him throw the entire game out to the pitcher.
Yeah.
That's just, wow.
Randy Rosenberg is his name. Let it be known.
He looks so young too.
Yeah, he looks like he might be a newer ump. God, I hope so, because that's
still no excuse.
No,
Maybe
it's not.
Angels,
if you're actually umpiring a spring training, a major league game, I don't care if it's spring training or not, you gotta know better than that.
Yeah. And that's, that's almost actually, in some ways that's worse than the guy who said screw it in that college game and rang the guy up on a ball that was 2 feet off the plate. That's honestly worse.
Neither of them are good, but
no.
Let's face
it. It's based off the same idea, where the umpire is just totally immature.
Yeah, was it a terrible call? Absolutely. Did it matter? No, because they weren't going to come back and win that game. And number two, that team the next game lost. What I say, like 34-2 or something insane like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, clearly your team's not very good anyway. The ump wanted to hit the showers. Is it right? No. But and here's the at least the ump didn't engage the player. Like he just walked off the field and ignored everything. Whereas this guy, oh my God, he didn't catch my ball. Get out of here. Yeah, no, get out.
I think that's the first time I ever seen JT ejected.
It may be his first career ejection. He hasn't been ejected much. And considering he used to play for the Marlins, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
JT apparently,
but no one saw it.
Yeah. He apparently had a good response. As he walked off, he just kind of held his arm up in the air like this and just kind of walked off.
Let's be real. JT was just happy to be able to hit the showers before everybody else because he was probably sweating under all that gear.
I'm like, do you realize you just ejected the starting catcher for the United States of America?
Oh, you've been waiting
to put it that way.
Drop that in. All right, let's roll into the NL East preview. Joe, you want to kick off the wonderfully high talented Washington Nats?
Sure, let's do it. Last year, the record 55-107. Obviously, the worst team in baseball, which we know that. From 21 to 22 was a loss of 10 wins from one year to the next. Their depth chart, you have at catcher Keibert Ruiz and Riley Adams, Dominic Smith at first base, Luis Garcia second, Jeimer Candelario at third, and CJ Abrams at short. Outfield of Corey Dickerson, Victor Robles, and Lane Thomas. DH is Joey Meneses, I think it is. And the starting rotation for them: Strasburg, Corbin, Josiah Gray, Cavalli, Trevor Williams. So I mean, look, there's not much to be excited about if you're a Nationals fan. Nothing's changed.
This is a terrible team. And Strasburg's starting the year on the IL, so Patrick Corbin is getting opening day nods against Max Fried.
Yeah, I mean, and Todd knows this well that Dominic Smith is not an upgrade. So
it might be.
First,
I don't know.
It might be. I don't know.
Change of scenery might do him good, I have to say.
I mean, considering it was Josh Bell's spot before.
The bright side for them is that they have CJ Abrams. I mean, he's a really good prospect, really good player, a lot of upside. They got him from San Diego with the Juan Soto and Josh Bell deal. But yeah, the rest of that, yikes.
Yeah. The other thing I would say too is obviously they're in the process of selling the team, so we should probably expect this for at least this year and maybe next. But
I mean, if you're a vet, why would you go play for a team that's not going anywhere and the ownership is trying to sell the team, so they're trying to limit payroll? There's no upside to going to Washington unless you literally have nowhere else to go.
That or money. I mean, if they throw enough money at you, if you're a big time guy. I mean, there was no reason for Mike Trout to stay in Anaheim, and he chose that path. So,
yeah, but they spent $7 million in free agency.
Yeah,
on 1-year deals.
Yeah.
They're not trying to go anywhere. So, Joe, what's your prediction for the Nationals?
Well, I would say I don't see him getting any better. I would say about the same, maybe even down to 52 wins. They could easily lose 110 games this year without even thinking about it.
Yeah. Todd, what do you think?
Well, if they win more than 70 games, Davey Martinez deserves Manager of the Year. First of all. The only reason I'm going to give them more wins this year is because they don't have to face the NL East as much with the restructuring of the schedule. They get to face teams in the NL Central who are kind of garbage. I mean, the Braves, Mets, and Phillies are all better than anyone in the NL Central.
Yeah.
I will go with. I'm going to give them. I'll give them 60.
Ooh.
I'm going to go bullish and give them 60 wins. They're still going to lose triple digits, but I'm going to give them 60.
Yeah. Ron, what do you think?
I'm in the ballpark with Todd here. They're not a great team. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Unfortunately, they're just a farm system pretty much for the whole MLB. I'll be generous. I'll go 62 and 100.
Ooh, 62. Jason, what do you think?
I kind of want to say 0 and 162 based off of this lineup, but I know they'll luck into a few wins, especially getting to play the Reds and some of those other teams like the Rockies. Even though apparently the Rockies are somehow going to win 95 plus games according to their owner. But there's
Rocky Mountain High, baby.
Yeah, seriously.
Whatever, man.
I mean, the Nationals basically just went forward and somehow got that world championship in 2019, and they're like, you know what, we got that, we're good.
They're
I was struggling as to whether or not I wanted to even give them 50 wins, but I agree with Joe here. I was thinking around 52. I think they'll be 52 and 110.
The Nationals, the Los Angeles Rams of baseball.
Screw them. 49 wins.
49.
Yeah. I have no faith in this Nationals team to do anything unless they start bringing up that young talent, and it immediately starts to pay dividends in the majors, which, as we know, sometimes it does. More often than not, it's a little bit of a rocky road pulling them up. So,
or unless they're facing the Braves near the end of the season in a pennant race.
Braves
I'd sign
were
up for
already
that.
good, dude. They didn't need to win at that point.
I kind of want to see them lose fewer than the Orioles did in 18. The Orioles, I think, won 47 and 115 in 2018.
Yeah,
they have the team to do it.
Walter.
They have the team to do it.
Oh, they do. When your cleanup hitter is probably going to be Corey Dickerson in 2023. Good chance.
That's the
interesting 10 years ago, but not now.
Yeah, right. All right, so how about for a team slightly less crappy? Joe, how about the Marlins?
Yeah, so 69 and 93 last year, good for fourth in the NL East, obviously. Only a +2 in the win column from year to year. You know what? At catcher, they got Jacob Stallings. They picked him up from Pittsburgh in the offseason, I think, or toward the end of last year. Nick Fortes is the other guy listed at catcher. Garrett Cooper at first. Luis Arias at second. Gene Segura at third. And Joey Wendell at short. Jazz Chisholm moving to the outfield this year. Jorge Soler is back at the DH spot. And they've got the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner in that rotation. So, there's not a ton to be super excited about, but I think you're more excited than you were last year for sure. Much more improved than some of these other teams for sure.
And I like a lot of the small market teams. They actually were active in the free agent and trade markets. They were actually trying to improve their team, unlike a team we may have just talked about.
Yeah, the move I didn't like the most, I would say, is when they got rid of Pablo Lopez and didn't really seem to make a good effort to keep him. He was pretty good for them last year.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, they had the pitching depth, so I expected he was the guy they were going to move. Arias was a little bit of a surprise because here's the thing. I don't understand this new defensive alignment. Why would you put Arias at second and bump Segura? Arias does not have good range. He's not really. I would put Arias either at first or at third, where his limited range is less of a vulnerability than it is at second, especially now that you don't have the shift to bring his shortstop over and help cover behind him. I really don't understand that at all. And moving Chisholm to the outfield,
to center field, no less.
Yeah, I really, it's funny. Everybody thinks, the speedy guy in center field is great. And it is when you have a really good outfielder like Michael Harris. But Atlanta last year had Adam Duvall out there, and he actually said that's why he thought he was hitting so poorly at the beginning of the year, because he was gassed running around so much in center, because he wasn't, that's not something he was used to, covering that much territory, because center field, you've got to back up both other outfielders as well as play your own position. So I don't like the new defensive lineup. I like what they did getting Segura, and I thought it was actually a pretty good deal that they signed Segura too. But I really think they should move Arias either to first or third, put Cooper in the other corner spot, and put Gene back at second base again. I don't understand this, or move Jazz back. There's lots of options here, but this is just. I think defensively they downgraded from last year. They definitely upgraded the bats, but I think defensively it's a downgrade. All right, so let's look at prediction time. Joe, what are you thinking for the Marlins?
I'm going to say 74.
74? Okay.
I think there's enough there to be happy with. I think they've got enough, offensive firepower with Gene in the lineup now for them. I think that's a good enough improvement to win at least 5 games.
All right. Todd, what are you thinking?
They're always an interesting team. I don't know if Alcantara can quite replicate what he did last year when winning the Cy Young Award, although he has incredible stuff. He could do it if anyone could do it. With the addition of Johnny Cueto, who is ageless, honestly. And he was pretty good with the White Sox last year, though his record didn't really show it. And there are some good pieces still there. You got Soler, who didn't quite replicate what he did with Kansas City and during those playoff run with the Braves, but he's still got it in him. This team is going to be what it always is, a pain in the ass to the actual contenders in the division. And I do see them improving on their record. I'm going to give them 77.
77? All right.
Yeah.
Ron, what are you thinking? I know you and Jason just love when you have to play the Marlins.
I'd give them 76. I just give them, 7 more wins.
Hopefully not against Philly, right?
No, probably against the Mets. Hopefully.
Actually, I could see it being the fact that they get to play teams other than the division.
Yeah.
Again, I think that schedule change is going to help them out a little bit.
Fewer games against the Braves, Mets, and Phillies. Yeah.
They did a good job this offseason getting Gene Segura, which I wasn't surprised to see him go there. That's a big need, and he probably sees that they are an up-and-coming team. I think the rotation is actually pretty solid. The relieving core leaves a good bit to be desired. I think they're going to be asking too much of their starters this season. I think you're going to see some of them get worn out. The losses to me, losing Jose Salas and JJ Bleday can potentially hurt them, but I do think that this is an improved team. They're still going to be 4th in the NL East, but they are going to be, I was actually thinking the same as Todd, 77 wins.
Okay. 77 for Jason. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's going to help the Marlins, although it may actually hurt them, because the Marlins just, for whatever reason, play the Mets and the Phillies and the Braves really well randomly and really awful at other times. So the schedule change may not help them as much as it may theoretically help the Nationals if they actually had a major league roster. So I do still see improvement, though. While they had a nice 69 win total last year, I think I'm going to give them 10. I'm going to give them 79. I'm not quite ready to call them a 500 club yet, but I don't think they're really that far away from it, if we're being honest. And that's going to be a dangerous team. As they've got some good guys in the pipeline that are getting close. That's going to be a dangerous team in the next couple of years. All right, Jason, Ron, take it away, guys. NL pennant winners.
We have the reigning National League champion, Philadelphia Phillies time. All right. So the Phillies this past year, you know I had to do something. If I was going to say, hey, let me introduce them, you knew something was going to come. So
Sure. Yeah.
So last year, the Phillies went 87-75. They got third in the NL East, but that did not matter. They still snuck in and got the third wild card spot. They were the last team in, and then they swept the Cardinals 2-0 in the wild card. They got to the Braves in the National League Divisional Series. And in a great feat of strength, winning me a bet, they won that series 3-1. The Reese bat spike, Harper going yard, JT with an inside the park home run.
Get on with it.
And then they get to the NLCS. They ended up facing the San Diego Padres. Ended up winning that one 4-1 with Bryce Harper, the swing of his life, and Bedlam at the bank. Hashtag trademark by Scott Franzke and the Phillies. But they then eventually did run into the buzzsaw known as the Houston Astros, losing the World Series 4-2. They were actually the first team to even take any games against the Astros in the postseason. But yeah, Bryce Harper, your National League Championship Series MVP. They couldn't quite get it done. I know Logan's thoughts on this are that the Phillies underachieved. I'm going to say that they overachieved. Nobody had them making it as far as they did. Maybe winning the wild card round, certainly not getting past the Braves, things like that. They played with house money, but they did have a great improvement there. So yeah, Ron, take it away with the depth chart.
Unmute yourself, Ron.
Hate this headset. Anyways, for your infield, you got best catcher in baseball, JT, behind the plate most of the times. On his occasional days off, you got Garrett Stubbs. I do not like him. I don't know why. It's just I don't know. Just don't like his style. First base, Derek Carl. Wow. Unfortunately, Reese is out for the season. Unless, free agency or something, they find somebody they want, trades, whatever. Second base, Bryson Stott. Alec Boehm over at third, and, of course, newly acquired Trey Turner at shortstop. That's my favorite pickup. I don't know why, but in your outfield, you got Schwarber, Marsh, and Castellanos. DH, Harper, and whenever he gets back, whatever the timeline is going to be, most likely the All-Star break. Not 100% sure on it yet. Your starting 5 pitchers would be Nola, Wheeler, Suarez, Walker, and Falter. Your relief pitching, Sir Anthony, Jose Alvarado, Gregory Soto, Greg. Is it Craig?
It's Craig.
Okay.
Can independently confirm that after watching him pitch for many years in Atlanta.
Matt Strom and Connor Brogdon.
Yeah. And one thing about that, Ron, Matt Strom's actually probably going to start for the first week or so because of Ranger being not quite ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, our acquisitions, the big one, Ron's boy, Trey Turner.
Oh man.
11 years, $300 million, and if spring training in the World Baseball Classic was any indication, that's going to absolutely be worth it.
Or, he blew all of it in the World Baseball Classic in spring training and hopefully has not as
Hey
much
now,
left.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. You wait until that sweet slide comes across home in Atlanta.
No, dude, as much as I wish it would happen, I know it's not going to. That's why I still drafted him first overall in the Dollar Dogs and Beer fantasy baseball draft.
But Andrew, he's not Alec Boehm. He'll touch home.
Exactly.
But we also then
Jason, you got to bring that up again.
I know, but then we also had Taiwan Walker, Craig Kimbrell, Gregory Soto, Matt Strom, and Josh Harrison. Josh Harrison, a really good utility pickup.
Yeah,
that's definitely an underrated pickup. And
Taiwan Walker's always good for the first half.
And and I think the other thing too to look out for is Jake Cave, who made the team as a bench player. He had a fantastic spring, and you'll probably be seeing him fill in, kind of splitting some duties with Brandon Marsh and Dalton Guthrie.
Yeah, it's a solid squad. Logan's thoughts on the Phillies. I know I skipped the Marlins and the Nationals, but he basically agreed with everything we said. So the Phillies, he said again with the injury bug has struck Harper and Hoskins. Harper will be back. Hoskins will not. The Phillies have significant offensive firepower, especially with the addition of Turner. Turner is going to be the electric in Philadelphia. I realized the Phillies had one heck of a playoff run a year ago, but they fell short. That's what Philadelphia sports does. They fall short. Oh, I didn't even read that beforehand. That's harsh, man.
I'll say, how did you not read that? That was like the first thing I saw in that email. That's why I replied with, I vehemently disagree.
Yeah, seriously.
As good as the Phillies might be, I think they will get in their own way with the defensive blunders, crappy late inning pitching, subpar coaching. Yeah, I don't agree with that part. Followed by a fan base that starts crying after 2 losses. Wow. I forgot how much Logan hates the Phillies. He thinks the Phillies
comes with the territory, man.
I know. Logan thinks the Phillies will underachieve and are challenged by the 4th place Marlins. Although, note, he did say challenged. He did not say passed by the 4th place Marlins. He does have the Phillies as 3rd. We're going to do the prediction for the big 3 at the very end, so don't worry about that. Wow.
Yeah, I still don't disagree with that. Especially, I mean, with the defensive mistakes, they've actually, I think, upgraded defensively. Boehm has clearly made strides from that 3-error game last year.
Yeah.
That kind of flipped the switch. You have
let's hope that continues because he's got a great arm.
And he developed power this offseason. He put on 15 pounds of raw muscle. You're going to have Brandon Marsh, who is an upgrade over Odubel Herrera. You know, Bryson Stott at shortstop over Didi Gregorius.
The sad thing is,
like,
most of the Nationals roster actually might be an upgrade over Odubel Herrera.
Right. Like, I think we need to look at the upgrades, like where these changes are. I said Bryson Stott at shortstop, Bryson Stott at second base, Trey Turner at shortstop over Didi Gregorius.
Yeah.
There's like 15 wins above replacement right there, you know. And he mentions the late inning bullpen. That bullpen's better than last year.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think a lot of this comes back to Dave Dombrowski doing a great job so far. And I cannot go against Philly Rob. Rob Thompson is the guy for this team, and they play for him. He's a player's guy. I think this team is going to really make a run again this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the coaching. He's absolutely the right guy for the job. If they would have not given him the long-term job, I would have fully expected Philadelphia sports fans to rise up, riot, and trash half the city in response, as they should have had that happen.
Yeah, I mean, and I get what he's saying about, you know, the Philadelphia sports falling short, because you did have them lose both the MLS Cup and the World Series on the exact same day. And then the Eagles just lost.
Whoa, bud. Whoa.
So
still hurts.
Well, Jason and I can agree on that one there.
Well, I mean, at least we've been to a Super Bowl in the last 27 years.
But I mean, like, at least the Flyers won't make it that far.
No.
They're in the top 32.
So, we have. I mean, I could fully see the Sixers making it to the NBA championship and losing that.
Oh, exactly. That's what you get to look forward to.
And you know what? Like, there were 3 Phillies on the World Baseball Classic Team USA roster, so
they were doomed to fail. You know, and you mentioned JT being the best catcher in baseball. I wouldn't be surprised if even by next year we're saying Adley Rutschman's the best catcher in baseball. JT is still going to be damn good, but Rutschman just looks so good that I would not be surprised if he passes JT by next year.
AL East was last week, Andrew.
I know. I'm just saying. I heard that being mentioned. I'm like, yeah, he might be, but not for much longer.
Okay, best catcher in the NL East, then. We'll just go with that.
National League, not even the East.
Yeah.
I'm gonna still say best catcher in baseball.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, of course.
Mean, whether you're right or not.
And until he's not, then he is.
He's the best catcher in Pennsylvania.
There you go.
Absolutely. The best catcher in Pennsylvania.
100%.
Yeah. Not going to argue that one.
Maybe even the tri-state area. Because,
Probably.
Yeah, let's face it, catcher is not a strength in New York for either club.
The main thing for the Phils is trying to replace for the first half of the season as much of the offense as you can from Reese and Bryce.
Yeah.
Bryce potentially is going to be back a little sooner. He's really progressed so far. I don't want them to rush him back.
No, I know they don't want to put him on the 60-day on the off chance he is able to come back before then, but I think that's foolish. I think as long as you're coming with, if you're 2 weeks out from the All-Star break, Harper says he's good, but you're still in a playoff contention spot. You tell him to sit his ass down and keep going for the long stretch.
Like
you got to play the long game.
The acquisition of Turner is going to help them replace a good part of those numbers. If not replace Hoskins' numbers, because I think he'll be able to put up close to Reese numbers there.
Yeah.
This is where it's going to be vital, absolutely vital, that Nick Castellanos has a bounce back year.
Yeah.
And you got to think Derek Hall, too, so he can put up some numbers.
Yeah. You're going to potentially see more from Alec Boehm. So for them, it's just going to be stay close for the first part of the season. Get your MVP back and then go on a tear.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think had the Phillies not gotten Trey Turner, this is a very, very different conversation with the Hoskins injury. 100%. But I'm less worried for the Phillies with the addition of Trey Turner than I would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you've been a little quiet down there. What do you think?
I think they're significantly improved as a club. The Phillies are. I think Castellanos is due for a bounce back year. So I'm not as concerned about the Hoskins injury as I might have been if we weren't expecting that bounce back and Trey Turner and they did it without Bryce last year for most of the year. So I'm not concerned about them being without him. It's the Reese injury is obviously, brutal for the locker room, but I don't think it's going to be brutal on the field.
The only other thing about the Harper injury I would even say is the Phillies had momentum already when Bryce got hurt last year and just carried it through. You have to build momentum up from the beginning on. So it may be a slow couple weeks start for the Phillies. Not necessarily saying that, but I could see it being a little bit of a slow start just as they're trying to, especially with incorporating so many new players. It might take a little time, but really I'm not as this team last year under Joe Girardi with no Hoskins, no Harper, forget it. They're looking at Nationals territory wins, but with Thompson, he'll be able to tweak things around and make it work. I'm really not worried.
Yeah,
Thompson trusts his guys.
Yeah, I wish I could be worried, but I'm not.
and I agree with Jason too. I think this bullpen is much improved.
Yeah. It's not. Is it the most lockdown bullpen in baseball? No, but compared to what we saw over the last 5-10 years, it's night and day.
And even last year, it started out rough, but once they made the changes when Thompson came in, the right guys were pitching in the right spots, and the bullpen was leaps and bounds better than the first part of the season.
Has Dominguez been named the closer officially, or are they still going to do like a closer by committee with him and Kimbrel?
I don't think they named it yet.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be by committee for the most part.
Okay.
I do think you'll see Dominguez get more opportunities, but that's the good thing about having all those relievers who have that closing experience. That's something they didn't really have before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, like I said, we will do predictions for the big three at the very end because this is just too much fun. All right, anybody else have anything on the Phillies before we move on to the Mets? I think we pretty well covered it, but just in case.
I guess just kind of piggybacking on a couple of the things you guys have said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Their bullpen is definitely improved over certainly the last 5 years. I wouldn't say it's lockdown, but it's certainly something to be worried about. I would say like the only name to me that says to me, okay, we got this in the bag is Dominguez for my money. Kimbrel is not what he used to be. I mean, he can still show flashes of greatness. Like 2 years ago with the Cubs, he was untouchable, and then he goes to the White Sox and becomes just bad. Although I do find it funny after all the years of making fun of his stance that they're going to be. I wonder what the people behind the home plate are going to be doing when he comes out and does his little stance. I would. The starting rotation, you have Nola and Wheeler, which obviously a great 1-2 punch. The thing about Taijuan Walker, as he was a Met for 2 years, the thing that scares me about him in Philly is his propensity for home runs, and that place is a bandbox.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have to worry about. Like I said, if he's on, he will get you a lot of ground balls, but if he's off, prepare for a lot of souvenirs. I would say like you guys are certainly better off, certainly at the start of the year compared to where you were last year. So, you guys, the Phillies are definitely more improved than they have been, and it's going to be a good fight. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I was waiting for Todd to be like, it's annoying.
It is annoying. It is very annoying, especially living in Philly territory. I have to deal with.
Oh yeah, you have it. Yeah. You have it rough,
dude. I feel you, man. I do.
I don't think you feel it as much as Todd does, though. I think that there's absolutely more animosity towards the Mets than the Braves.
Yeah, the region, like the geographical. We're 90 minutes away. The Mets are 90 minutes away from Philly.
Yeah, I get that.
You guys can talk about 07 and 08 all you want. Those things. I mean,
21.
That's a stigma. That's a stigma that's going to be stuck to us forever.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is. You got to own it.
There's one thing that we can agree on, though. There's something exciting coming back with Philadelphia Phillies baseball.
Oh yeah,
Turkey Hill posted on their Instagram.
They're bringing
Look what's coming back.
Are they bringing the Grand Slam back?
Grand Slam is coming back.
Yes.
Okay. There's one thing that they did right.
Oh my God, the Grand Slam.
Although just as an aside, while we're talking about 07 and 08, they actually put the game that the nice.
Yes.
They listened to the fans.
Yes. Turkey Hill bringing it back. Oh, I love it. Sorry, go ahead, Todd.
The bringing back the 07 and 08, and I was watching the episode where you were talking about the AL Central and the White Sox, and they actually put up the game where the Mets game 162 where Glavine gave up 7 runs in the third of an inning, and they were talking about it after the game, and there was an actual quote by a Met player saying that it's awful to say. It was we're so good that sometimes we get bored. Do not the fact that they said that. I mean, are you surprised they played like that in the end? And then around the White Sox, because
saying
that's like celebrating a World Series championship in spring training.
They did.
I know.
They did, and I was watching that. It was after the game ended, and Gary Cohen, the Mets TV broadcaster, said that, and I'm just like floored. I'm like, no way did they say that.
That's when you knew you were doomed.
And it all made sense now. It all made sense as to why it happened.
What? Oh man, I'm thinking of that TikTok I sent in our group chat.
All right, so speaking of teams that suffer from premature celebration syndrome, go ahead, Todd.
Well, us premature boys went 101-61, which was just as good as the Braves, but we had to lose more than we won against them by one game.
Sorry, are we
so
not
by
the
that we
Phillies?
finished second in the National League East, 0 games back. So that gave us the first wild card, and in that we were unceremoniously disposed of by the Padres 2-1. But I did go to the game they won, so whatever.
How was the atmosphere up there?
Oh my god, 10 out of 10 would recommend to anybody.
Nice,
absolutely amazing. It was unfortunately Jacob deGrom's final start as a Met, and
we
but
should
he did
get
go
to
out
see it, dude. That's pretty.
I
sweet.
did. I got to see it, and that was the only game they won in the postseason. From 2021, I believe the reason why Showalter won Manager of the Year, a 24-game upswing, got them to one of the most fun, probably the most fun season I've ever seen outside of 2015. Just an incredible experience. Our depth chart, catcher, we got Omar Narvaez, who's probably going to be our starter, maybe splitting duties with Tomas Nido, who is one of the, if there is such a thing, one of the best backup catchers there is in baseball. And he really is. He calls an incredible game. First base, Pete Alonso. Second base, Jeff McNeil. Third base, you have Luis Guillorme in here, but their starting is probably going to be Eduardo Escobar. Luis Guillorme will be the utility infielder. And shortstop, you have Francisco Lindor, who is very similar. The Phillies and Mets are going to have very similar shortstops for the next 10 years. Very similar. You have our outfielders, Mark Hanna, Brandon Nimmo, and Starling Marte. Designated hitter, Daniel Olodhi Vogelback. He's amazing. I love him. Starting pitchers, Max Scherzer, who did get the nod for opening day. Justin Verlander will get the Mets home opener, which is a good move on their part. Jose Quintana, who will be out until either June or July, depending on how quickly he heals. And Kodai Senga, who they got from the Yakult Swallows of the Japan League. And Carlos Carrasco. Our fifth starter in the meantime will be David Peterson. Relievers, we'll start with Adam Ottavino. David Robertson, who we got from the Phillies. I know Jason's shaking his head, but I like that move.
Todd, I ended up taking him in a couple fantasy drafts.
I did too.
because I only did it after the Edwin Diaz injury, because he's going to be their primary closer.
I'm not totally sold on that. I mean, it might be a closer by committee thing again. I know Robertson has the experience, but Ottavino to me has the best stuff. So we'll see what happens. Drew Smith, who's been with the Mets for a while, and Brooks Raley, who we got from Tampa Bay. Other pieces include Tommy Hunter, John Curtis, Dennis Santana, and Steven Nagosic, who also has a good mustache, by the way.
Not as good as Strider's, dude.
No, Strider's is.
It's still good.
The best.
Very important parts. The players that re-signed. Brandon Nimmo, who is probably the biggest one, I think. Probably more so than Diaz, in my opinion, because 8 years, $162 million, full no trade clause. So be ready for a lot more sprints down first base and smiling as he does it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Edwin Diaz, who obviously we talked about, is out for the year. Almost certainly out for the year with a torn patellar tendon in his right knee. They're like, hey, maybe he might be back for the playoffs. I'm like, don't do that. Don't push it. This guy's gonna be here for 5 years. You can't make those next 4 years bad. But he has an opt-out available after 25. And other guys, Adam Ottavino, we signed for 2 years, $14.5 million, and he has an opt-out after this year.
I wouldn't have been upset if Ottavino went somewhere else, not going to lie.
That's why we got him back. New acquisitions. This is going to be a yearly thing with the Mets for a while, just because of the deep pockets that Steve Cohen has. These contracts are very complicated. I'm not going to get into all the little nuances of it, but obviously the big name was Justin Verlander. 2 years, 86.6 mil, so basically the same average annual value as Max Scherzer. Kodai Senga, 5 years, 75 mil, which to me is a good deal. From the few starts I've seen him throw in spring training, he's nasty. Let's see, Jose Quintana, 2 years, 26 mil. He's going to miss the first half of the year. David Robertson for a year and 10 million. Brooks Raley, 1 year, 4.5. Omar Narvaez, 2 years, 15. Will probably be a placeholder for Francisco Alvarez until he comes up. And for some reason, Tommy Pham, a year, 6 million. Obviously, key losses. 3 out of 5 of our rotation last year was lost to free agency. Jacob deGrom went to Texas. Chris Bassett went to Toronto, and Taijuan Walker went to Philly. Seth Lugo went to San Diego. I saw him leaving the Mets just because he's wanted to be a starter his whole career, and he's just never had a chance to do that here. Trevor Williams, who was a very underrated piece for us, our long man, spot starter, went to Washington. And James McCann went to Baltimore, probably to mentor Adley as he keeps going up. So that's basically us in a nutshell. And this is a very different but very same team because you kind of swapped one piece for another. You swapped DeGrom for Verlander, that kind of thing. But that's us.
So Logan's thoughts quick. Straight out of the gate, Edwin Diaz out for the year, making me and other Mets fans completely sick to our stomachs. I'm not blaming the World Baseball Classic on his injury. It could have happened anywhere, doing anything. A few years back, I significantly strained a back muscle shitting while reaching for toilet paper because shit literally happens. He does have the Mets ending up second this year. Yeah. It's, here's the thing with the Mets. They made a lot of great moves. They also lost a ton of guys. I mean, they had to make great moves to make up for the fact that 2/3 of the roster from last year was free agents, something like that. Yeah. That's insane.
They re-signed the parts that were the most important to re-sign, and that's why I think this offseason was very good.
Yeah. I was really hoping Nemo was going somewhere else. I don't really care about Diaz because Diaz, a closer's, it is what it is. You can always find another guy who is able to close for brief periods of time if necessary. Whitey Herzog, in his book he wrote about his time with the Cardinals and with the Royals, said his favorite thing to do was to get a closer, get them developed really well, and then trade them for the other holes in his roster because he could always find somebody else who could do the job if necessary. So, the Diaz injury sucks. No doubt about it. Frankly, I think Diaz, if you have to pick anybody in that depth chart to lose for the year, I think Diaz is the guy I'd rather have over Scherzer or Verlander. I'd rather have him over Alonso or Lindor. I mean, a closer is not going to pitch every day,
Right.
So I'd rather not lose a big-time starter. I'd rather not lose an everyday player. So it sucks 100%, but could have been a lot worse.
And I think the thing that hurts the most is I'm not 100% sure on this stat, but the Mets, when they were leading and going into the ninth inning, were 89-0. They never lost when they were leading in the ninth inning. That's the reason why it hurts.
Yeah. Although would Diaz have replicated that this year? Because let's think about it. Before last year, Diaz was not the most reliable guy in the ninth inning at any point in his career.
Well, in 2018 with the Mariners, he had a pretty similar year. He did save 57 games. His whip was like 0.7 or something like that, something stupid. Yeah. His first year with the Mets was an absolute disaster. He had an ERA like 5.5. His whip was like 1.4. It might have been due to the baseball being different that year, but no excuse there. And obviously last year he was unreal. Would he replicate what he did this year? What he did last year, this year? I mean, all logic points to no. He has the stuff to be able to do it because he's just a 2-pitch pitcher, fastball and slider. So, there are fewer variables there. But, would he have done the same thing as last year? Signs point to no, but it's nice to know that you have a guy there that you can really feel confident with going into the 9th inning, because they're hard to come by. When you have that security blanket, it feels really good.
Yeah, that's
you hear those trumpets come in. You won't hear that this year.
Nope, they're muted.
That's not true. You'll still hear him in Milwaukee.
Yeah, well, no, it's not the same.
That was my favorite part of trolling that the Braves did with the Mets towards the end of last, because nobody really cared about it until randomly some Mets fans heard the Braves play Narco when Contreras came, because he was using that all year as his walk-up music anyway. And then I guess the Mets just hadn't realized, because for some reason the way the schedule was last year, it was like Mets Phillies in the first half, Mets Braves in the second half. Like that schedule was, to this day, makes no sense.
We didn't play the Marlins until June. It made no sense.
And I'm pretty sure that the Phils and Mets were done playing by the All-Star break.
Yeah.
No, you had one series afterwards, July.
August was the last time we played the Phillies.
But yeah, just
that crazy 10-9 back and forth game, that was the last game we played.
Yeah. That was just dumb. But anyway, and then I mean, Snitker's not going to do this because that's not the kind of guy he is. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Snitker was just trying to get under Diaz's skin for somewhere down the road by sending in Contreras as a pinch hitter to have the trumpets be played in Atlanta, just to piss him off. But yeah, that's the only time you'll still hear it is Milwaukee this year, since he is gone.
Well, you won't hear it in the postseason then, probably.
Yeah, I think that's it.
No, definitely not.
There's Joe.
Brewers are going down this year, unfortunately for them.
There's always plenty of Brewers hate in this podcast, so yeah, pile it on. It's okay. So yeah, it's like I said with the Mets, it's like they sign a ton of good guys because they lose a lot of good guys. And you're right, because of Cohen's pockets, we're going to be seeing that for a while. On the Earnestly Speaking podcast, on his page that he has, EJ had another fan who would continuously tell me in the offseason after Verlander was signed, I was pointing out that you can't rely on Scherzer and Verlander to pitch the entire season, because at least one of them, most likely because of their age, both of them will be hurt at some point, even if it's just day-to-day and not on the 15-day IL. But he's like, oh, no, we're going to get them full season. We're going to get 60-some starts out of it. I'm like,
I would.
That's delusional.
I would absolutely love that. But based on what? I mean, yeah, Verlander was healthy all last year. Scherzer, who has been healthy his entire career, was hurt twice last year.
Well, Verlander was hurt in September.
Yeah, he's still coming off Tommy John surgery. He's 40 years old.
Yeah.
And the thing I like about Cohen's philosophy is that what he's trying to do is trying to build the farm system back up, but he has the pockets to at least put something that's competitive and able to win on the field as he's doing it. And that's why they're signing these guys to short-term deals. I don't mind Verlander coming over. If they had signed Verlander for like 5 or 6 years, I would not be happy about it.
That would be utter insanity.
Yeah.
2-year deal. Well, now keep in mind, though, if he pitches enough innings next year, it does vest to a player option, so you might be stuck with him a third year, even if he's effective. So, but yeah, so, they're still going to be a good team. I hate to say it. I wish it wasn't going to be the case, but the Mets are going to be a good team this year.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, before we let the Phillies fans dig in, I know your father-in-law is a big Mets fan. You do follow them somewhat closely. Again, you guys, I know you have a bet running every year. You're what, 1-1 in those, 1-2 in those?
1-1. We haven't talked about doing it again. Maybe we will. I'll check with him on that one. But
what is the wager, Joe? What is the bet?
Typically, what we do is we look at the win projections, and let's say the Mets are expected to win 10 more than the Cubs. We pick a number somewhere in there. Usually I ask him to give me a couple. So it's 8 games or 7 games, let's say. And if the Mets don't win 8 or more than the Cubs, then I win the bet. So
It's a dinner bet?
So what is the number going to be, like 20, 30 this year?
I haven't looked at it yet.
Cubs aren't going to be bad.
No, they're not.
Cubs
and
are
they're
going to be
playing in
all
a
right.
garbage division, so that helps.
Yeah, they have a chance of winning that crap division. They really do.
No, they don't. I'd love to see it happen.
If things go right, yeah.
I'd love to see the Cubs
right,
not
probably not.
It would.
I'd be shocked.
So I decided here, I am looking at some of their things here. Let's see. Trying to find their... Of course, the one that just pulls up projections isn't even accurate.
Yeah. What I will say is I know that Nimmo was a huge re-sign for them. That was the guy that my father-in-law didn't want to lose, for sure.
Absolutely. Just his he's the lead. He is the guy they needed to lead off, man.
Absolutely.
Just to set the table.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, his play in center field has gotten so much better over the years.
Oh yeah,
he's got a great glove.
Mm-hmm.
God, I wish he was somewhere else, like in the West Coast.
The pitching makes me nervous, and I agree with you, Todd. I think that Trevor Williams was actually really good. I liked him in Chicago, and I thought he was a really good piece for them last year.
Oh yeah, definitely. For sure. And he did come over in the Javi Baez trade.
He did.
Still, what we gave
the Cubs,
we gave up Pete Crow Armstrong for him, and that's way too much.
The Cubs just annihilated that trade, man. It was just a beautiful win for them.
It is a 14-win difference.
Really?
A 14-win difference. The over-under for the Cubs is 77.5, and the Mets is 91.5.
Joe, push for 12 at least.
Those are decent over-unders, I have to say.
Yeah. I can't argue those numbers. Jason, Ron, any other thoughts from you guys in the Mets?
I definitely think that they'll end up losing just dropping a little bit this year. I was fully prepared on having the Phillies finish above the Mets this year until Hoskins went down. We'll see how I feel when we get to the projection time. I might still do that, but I do think that the Mets retooled while they were still losing some players. I do think we'll see a little bit of a drop, but not much. I mean, it's kind of hard to really improve on a 101 win season,
And certainly look for the Mets and the front office to be active in the trade deadline to look
absolutely.
for a closer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, hey, if the Dodgers could improve from 108 wins to 110 wins, it is possible to improve over 100 wins, but it is difficult.
Not with our division.
And go 1-3 against San Diego, but that's the way it goes.
Well, yeah, that's so true. Ron, do you have any other thoughts on the Mets?
No, not really. I think I don't know. I'm just not a Mets fan.
Well,
they ain't going to the World Series, so it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
Oof, harsh.
It is March 27th. Remind me.
Andrew, those Braves in Atlanta.
Let's move on. Last year, the Braves won the NL East with a 101-61 record. They were eliminated by the Phillies in the NLDS 3-1. It was a good series. I said last year, Snit's management, a little questionable in the postseason. He left some pitchers in too long, and it hurt.
Yeah, and I mean, he let Spencer Strider go like 2 1/3.
Yeah, and when the guy hadn't pitched in a month, like the moment things come off the rails, you yank the guy. You don't let him try and fight through it. Not in the playoffs, but anyway.
To be fair, he actually did. He gave up that home run to the 3-run homer to Hoskins, then a single to JT, I believe, and he was yanked.
Yeah, Strider was definitely pitching hurt in that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
first 2 innings he was fine. It was that third inning when once he started giving up hits, yank the damn guy. But anyway,
He had no life in his fastball.
yeah.
I had to poke the bear a little bit on that one.
Shocker. Who's surprised? Is anybody here surprised by
What?
that? Yeah.
This
no,
is the
no,
NLE
no,
show.
no.
You have to
I'm
have some poking the
surprised.
Bears.
Anyway, so Atlanta actually from their World Series championship season of 2021, they actually had a 13-win improvement last year.
Damn.
Yeah, and crazy, isn't it? So looking at the depth chart, I mean, this is a stacked team. Catching Sean Murphy and Travis Darno, because that's what a good backup catcher actually looks like there, Todd. 2 All-Stars. First base, you got Matt Olson. Second base, you got Ozzy Albies, who will have, I think, a big bounce back here now that he's not hurt and fully recovered from his injuries. Third base, Austin Riley, who one of these years better win me a damn MVP so I can rub it in Jason Joe's face. Shortstop, this is definitely the weak part of the spot of the roster right now with Orlando Arce at shortstop. I was very surprised it wasn't either Schuster or Grissom taking it, but I'm okay with both of them being sent down to the minors for a little more seasoning. Neither of them are quite ready yet, I don't think, although Grissom's probably a little more ready, but not defensively. I think Grissom will eventually be a super utility player, bouncing all over the field. Outfield, you got Eddie Rosario, who looks like all the eye issues from last year behind him. His contact has been solid in spring training. Center fielder, you've got what will hopefully be a very long run of Golden Gloves out there with Michael Harris II. And in right field, hopefully back from his injury and back to a potential 40-40 season, the guy for the jersey I'm wearing, Ronald Acuna Jr. DH is unfortunately a rough spot. So here's the thing. The Braves have Marcell Ozuna listed as the DH. I have a feeling it's going to be Travis d'Arnaud a lot of the times if he's not catching. And then when the days he's catching, it's going to be Murphy. Unless Murphy really needs a day off because Ozuna, they just need to cut their losses, get rid of the guy and move on. The pitching, very, very, very good. You got Max Fried, Spencer Strider. Now, Kyle Wright is going to start the season on the IL. He had an injection in his shoulder back in January, so he was a little bit delayed starting. So he's just going to be an extended spring training. It's not really a real long IL stint they're expecting. So he'll be back fairly quickly. Charlie Morton, and then surprisingly, it's not going to be Ian Anderson. It's not going to be Bryce Elder. It's not going to be Mike Soroka. It's going to be the 2 rookies, Dylan Dodd and Jared Schuster, who had phenomenal spring trainings. Dodd went 1-0, 2 ERA and 3 starts, 18 innings, 20 strikeouts, and 106 whip. Schuster went 1-0, 145 ERA and 4 starts, 18 2/3, 18 strikeouts, and a .59 whip. And towards the end of spring training, they were facing the A squad of other teams. It's not like those are inflated numbers from facing a lot of crappy rosters. The bullpen, Rossell Iglesias, will be the starter when he comes back off the IL. For right now, it will be A.J. Minter, who has been honestly a very solid reliever for the Braves the last couple of years. Joe Jimenez was an offseason pickup. Colin McHugh is back. We got him last year. I love that guy. Great stuff. He pounds the strike zone. Jesse Chavez is back again because, as we have learned, Jesse Chavez apparently can't pitch well anywhere but Atlanta. As Joe learned last year in Chicago. Dylan Lee will be back as one of the lefties, and Kirby Yates as well. 1 year now, 2 years, 2 years off Tommy John. So I think Kirby Yates will be back somewhere where he's supposed to be. New acquisition, Sean Murphy, obviously, and then Atlanta being Atlanta and what they do, they extended him 6 years, $73 million with the club option for $15 million for 29. They grabbed Jimenez 1 year, $2.765 million, which I think is a great bargain price for Jimenez. Lucas Luteche, who did not make the initial roster, but he will likely be called up at some point. 1 year, 1.55. They got Sam Hilliard and Jordan Luplo, in the outfield for depth and for veteran leadership presence. Colby Allard, they picked up in the trade with Texas, and Nick Anderson as well. They lost Dansby Swanson. That one does hurt. I'm going to miss Dansby. Joe, I mentioned it last week. He's going to strike out. He's going to be streaky, but he's one hell of a leader, and he's got a great glove. You guys made a great signing there. They lost William Contreras in the trade for Murphy. Kenley Jansen's now pitching in Boston, where he will have a fraction of the save opportunities he had last year because Boston's going to suck. And they lost Odorizzi. I was not upset to see Odorizzi leave. And Kyle Mueller was also one of the offseason trades. So, honestly, guys, we didn't do much because we didn't need to do much because most of our roster is signed through at least 25 or 26. I love getting Murphy because d'Arnaud is a great catcher. He is not a good defensive catcher. He can frame pitches with the best. His arm sucks. Murphy's got a cannon. He has got great jump to second time. Not as good as JT, I will admit that, but he's not far behind JT either. So I love the Murphy deal because he's got a great bat. He's an all-star caliber guy, and the defense is increased. Honestly, I'm not upset with losing Contreras. I love the guy, great bat. His defense is atrocious. There is a reason Atlanta used him almost exclusively last year as a designated hitter because they were terrified of having him behind home plate when d'Arnaud needed a break. That's why you saw a lot of our third and fourth position guys get starts at catcher and not Contreras. So, I'm still not seeing a team that's going to get knocked off by the Phillies or Mets. Sorry. Go ahead, guys.
Well, that's why they play the games, man.
No, it's true. It's true. But this is a team that's been generally very durable. So I'm hoping that durability will continue now that Acuna's, now season and a half off of that ACL. I fully expect Acuna, based on what I was seeing in the World Baseball Classic with Venezuela and in spring training, I think Acuna is going to be back more to the guy we saw before the ACL injury, which should terrify opponents. Ozzy, the only thing I've seen with Ozzy is that his right-handed swing hasn't quite regained the power from the shoulder surgery that he did to get some bone spurs cleaned out. But here's the thing. Nobody likes to bring in a lefty to face Ozzy Albies anyway, so he's going to get more at-bats left-handed anyway, so I don't really think that's going to be a big deal. And that should be recovered by the end of April or, beginning middle of May anyway, based on expected timeline. So I'm not worried about it. And the fact that Rosario's eyes apparently both work this year, unlike last year when he had to have emergency laser eye surgery in the middle of the season, which I don't think I've ever can remember any major leaguer needing to go through that. I'm really not worried durability-wise for the Braves, and they've got good depth down in the farm system. And as we saw last year, they're not afraid to bring guys up from Double-A and have them perform like all-stars. So let's start with the Phillies blog. Jason and Ron, what are you guys thinking over there?
It must be nice to be at the top of the league last year in the NL East and then just losing Philly.
They spent everything they had to beat the Mets and catch them. I don't think they had anything left in the playoffs. I was hoping they could at least get to the NLCS, but I wasn't surprised really that they got knocked out by the Phillies.
Shit, my boss was at that clinching game too.
Yeah. The Braves are definitely still obviously going to be the favorites to win the division this year. They have a couple losses that I think will definitely hurt them a little bit. I think losing Dansby's going to hurt. I think depending on what they do with DH, if they don't give one of those catchers regular time batting, that's going to actually hurt their win total because both of those guys need to be in the lineup.
I think they will be. I really think DH. I think Ozuna's listed because he has to be listed somewhere.
Okay.
I really think it's going to be d'Arnaud doing more DH than Ozuna. Thank God.
And I think the potential issues would arise where in the back end of the rotation, I think rookies are definitely an unknown. I'm not saying that those rookies won't be another Spencer Strider, but I think it's possible that Spencer Strider kind of spoiled rookie pitchers for you a little bit. And I'm not entirely scared of the bullpen. I think there is some weakness there, but the offense is there, the defense is there. Braves are absolutely going to be the favorites to win the division this year.
Hmm.
Yeah, give me a sec. Ronnie, go ahead. I'm going to pull up Dylan Dodd and Schuster's minor league stats because I'm really not going to be surprised if they do quite well.
Honestly, last season, the Braves were the only team that the Phillies actually went pretty much decent against with games. They were actually good games and not blowouts all the time.
Well, and here's the Braves and the Phillies are always tight. It is very rare that you have seasons where they're more than 2 to 3 games difference in win-loss. Obviously, there have been in the last 5-10. There have been a few seasons where one team has completely annihilated the other. But by and large, the Braves and the Phillies are usually pretty close. Braves and the Mets, not so much. It's been a while since the Mets have really had the Braves number. But Braves and Phillies are always a very, very tight rivalry that usually plays out to the last series of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, what are you thinking, bud?
About the Braves, I have to agree with Jason that until they show me otherwise, they are the team. They are the favorites to win the division. Like I said, both the Phillies have improved overall. The Mets have done what they've needed to do to at least stay consistent to what they were last year. I would say, the Braves have obviously losing Swanson hurts, but getting Sean Murphy, I feel like at least makes up for most, if not all, of that.
Yeah.
I think overall the thing that I think the Braves have, well, obviously the Braves have over the Mets or Phillies or almost every other team, is the fact that they know what they have and they know what they're going to have going forward. Because you look at their depth chart, it could be the same thing the next 3 years, basically. There's no like culture shock going into the new clubhouse because it's all the same. The Braves are a very tight knit group, and like I said, until they show me otherwise, they are going to be the favorites. Obviously, the Mets and Phillies are going to give them a run for their money, but it's hard to root against. It's hard to bet against them right now.
Yeah. I think it's very possible you'll see these 3 teams be within like 5-6 games of each other by the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't expect one team to break away. I don't. Maybe early in the season when things are still, getting going, but by the end of the season, it's going to be a tight race.
No doubt. 100%.
Logan said, this is the Braves division to lose again. There isn't a more talented team in this division. The Braves are once again stacked from top to bottom. They have great coaching, great fans. How does one not pick them to win the NL East? Logan, you're absolutely right.
About the fans thing.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man. I obviously
Even
follow
Kansas
a lot.
City.
I follow a lot of Braves fans on Twitter, obviously on my own, not on our show's Twitter handle, obviously, but on my personal. And the videos those folks post from games in the middle of the season from Truist Park are just insane. I really, really hope one of these years we can get back down there to see a game at Truist. I've not seen a game in the new ballpark yet. Last game I saw was a classic between Doc Halladay and Tim Hudson in Turner. It's been a while. For the record, Doc should have won that game, except Charlie, as usual, left him in an inning too long. Dan Douglas smashed a home run to deep center, and Craig Kimbrell came in. And from where we were sitting on the third base side, ironically, right next to some other Phillies fans from the Lancaster area, I have not heard a catcher's mitt crack as loudly as that in a very long time. Now, again, this was like Pete Kimbrell when he was throwing 99, 100 all the time. So take that as you will. But, when it was almost like when we were at the game last year, when we got to see Strider pitch, we could hear it crack and we were up in the 300 level. Yeah. It was a lot like that, but I was a lot closer in that game.
Yeah. And my seats this year, my season tickets are actually like just a section towards home plate from where we were last year.
Oh, nice.
Second row on an aisle, and I am so pumped to see these games, especially with the new players. Our first game's a dollar dog night, so dollar dog and beer. Like it's, I am so excited for that. April 11th can't come soon enough.
No, that's gonna be a great game. I'm not gonna. I like the 300 level of Philadelphia. It's nice up there, and when you're on the third base side, you're not dealing with the sun the entire time. And now
that's why I chose it.
And now that Philadelphia has the scoreboard that apparently can be seen from space.
Oh my god, this thing is huge.
The only thing that bothers me about it is the Phillies light at the top is not centered. It's off to the left.
And, ever since you pointed that out, I can't unsee it. So thank you for that.
Oh, god.
No problem.
Look at it
No
now.
problem.
Jesus.
That's the only thing that bothers me about it.
Joe, what do you think?
Look, I think losing the offense of Swanson, losing the offense of Contreras, losing Kenley Jansen in the bullpen, like Jason said, the bullpen doesn't scare me. And, we probably had similar opinions about whose division it was to lose about another team, and it's 3 words: Chicago White Sox. And look how that worked out.
Yeah.
So
That's fair.
could it be their division to lose? Sure. Is it going to be? I don't know.
So just to, at least for the back end of the rotation, I can help you out a little bit. Last year, Dylan Dodd threw 3 levels of the minors, 12-9, 336 over 26 starts, 142 innings. He had a whip of 118, an average against 247, 153 strikeouts. Pretty solid. Schuster, 2 levels of the minors last year, I believe double and triple, if I remember correctly. 7-10, 329, 139 innings. He had a 212 average against 105 whip and 145 strikeouts. The thing that impresses me about these 2 guys is they pound the strike zone. They may not always get hot, they're not going to get Spencer Strider strikeout numbers. Nobody does. But they pound the strike zone and they don't give up a ton of walks, which is, for some reason, becoming a rarity in Major League Baseball these days. So
that does have the potential to burn them, though, at the Major League level.
Yeah,
it does. It does. But remember, Wright's going to be back within 2 weeks. So they only need to survive 2 weeks, and then whoever's performing more poorly is going to go down and work in AAA for a while. And if Ian Anderson's ready to be brought up, they'll both go down, and Ian Anderson will come up and take the 5 spot. So it's, most teams, oh my God, we've got to deal with 2 rookies for 2 weeks. Oh shit, what are we going to do? Atlanta, all right, we'll be fine. So, and again, that goes back to their philosophy with how they've been drafting pitchers. They went back when Alex Andopoulos took over. He said his goal was to remake Atlanta's farm system like the 90s, where they had depth coming up continuously, so that if they needed to fill another position, they had guys they could trade, they had guys they could bring up. And I think he's done that very, very well so far.
The thing that they have going for them is that it's the early part of the season. I think it's potentially much harder to bring them up in the middle of the season when you have major league teams who have been playing for a couple months and are just seeing the ball better by then, things like that. Yeah. So that is the one thing that they have going for them with having them up there early.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we have been setting aside the predictions until now. Unless does anybody else have anything else to say about Atlanta? I think we pretty well hit that.
For our predictions, do we want to do like our third place team and their wins, second place team and their wins, first place team and their wins?
What do you want to do it by team, or do you just want to go person by person? They can give the 3 teams in the win total. That might be easier.
Yeah. Let's do that.
All right. So, Joe, let's start with you, bud.
Okay. Jeez. I think, you know what? I'm going to do it. Braves 92 wins, Mets 92 wins, Phillies 93 wins, and take the division.
Hold on,
yeah.
The Phillies at 93. Are you taking the Braves at 2 at 92?
don't know.
Who wins the tiebreaker?
Yeah.
The Braves.
That's the tiebreaker.
All right, Braves 92 at 2 and Mets 92 at 3. Got it for Joe. All right, 92. All right.
I'm assuming you have the second and the Mets and the Braves getting wild card spots.
More than likely, yeah. That's seems to be the
That number would be a good one, I think.
obvious play there.
I think it's a pretty safe bet to say the NL East is going to be sending the top 3 teams to the playoffs for the next several years.
Probably.
It's going to be a while before the Central recovers enough to have a wild card candidate. Sorry, Joe. And the West, I mean, the Padres are going to be there, but the Dodgers aren't going anywhere. So it's going to be Dodgers Padres out there for a while. I'd say Arizona probably not till like 25, maybe 24, but I think realistically 25.
I don't know. The Rockies are going to win 95 games apparently.
I hope that the Rockies win game 1. So we can all tweet and say, hey, owner, look, you're on a 162 game winning pace. Good luck with that. And then watch crash and burn.
And they're 2-17.
Exactly. All right. Todd, fire away, bud. What's your prediction?
Okay. Like Jason said, it would have the Rhys Hoskins injury really hurt. Obviously, the Diaz injury hurt as well. So I do feel like it's harder to overcome an injury like Hoskins, who is in there every day and is the first baseman, as opposed to Diaz, who comes in at the most once every 2.5 days. Because of that, I have the standings the same. I would say Phillies 90, Mets 93, Braves 97.
7. All right.
I'll accept that.
Mets 93. What do you have the Phillies at, Todd?
90. Even.
90? Okay. All right. Ron, what do you got?
I'm almost the same with Todd on the standings. I'd give the Phillies 92 wins. The Mets, I'd probably give them like 94. And the Braves, I'd give 97 to.
97? Okay. So 92, 94, 97. Well, we are all playing heavily off of we don't have to play each other as much, so we're going to beat other people up. The funny thing is a lot of sports writers are like, that's going to hurt the NL East because they can't beat up on the Nationals as much.
No,
okay, we don't
get
get
beat up on the Reds and the Pirates.
Exactly. There are so many other bad teams that we get to feast on.
And in the American League, we got the Royals and the
entire
Tampa Bay.
Well, Tampa's going to be pretty decent, I think.
Yeah, I'd be worried
Boston.
About
yeah, Boston, the Royals.
Well, here's the thing with Boston. Boston is Atlanta's permanent rivalry crossover. So we're always going to have the Red Sox. So for the next couple of years, we're going to.
We always have to have the Yankees. Isn't that great?
Sucker.
That's great.
Did the Phillies have the Orioles?
Mm-hmm.
You would think.
Ooh. Yeah, Phillies get the Orioles.
That'll be good.
Well, what about Washington and Orioles? Well, Washington's a minor league team.
They usually have their Beltway series.
Yeah, they get the Beltway, but they also get Toronto a lot because of the old Montreal-Toronto rivalry. So
I guess. Yeah.
All right, Jason, fire away, bud.
All right, so if I was going with my head, I would go with the order that potentially that Todd and Ron had. Maybe switch the Phils and the Mets. But I'm going to go with my heart.
Here's the butt.
In third place with 92 wins, I'm going to take the New York Mets.
Mm-hmm.
In second place with 94 wins, I'm going to take the Atlanta Braves.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's as hard as talking.
And then I think the fact that they're going to play less games against the Mets, not go 4-15 or whatever it was, get more games with the other teams, the Phillies are going to fly to the division title.
Fly? It's the wrong sport, Jason.
No, it's going to fly now, buddy.
Okay.
They're going to fly. all the way to the division
to Lincoln
title.
Financial Park, where they get annihilated.
They're going to fly into the division title with 95 wins, one-upping the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, okay.
Did the Phillies get a bye? Do you think?
Nah.
No? Think the Cardinals will do better?
I forget what I had for my predictions there, but I could see the Cardinals potentially getting there.
All right, you ready for this?
Yeah, what did I have the Cardinals at?
Oh, you really gonna make me pull it
Oh,
up?
I thought that's what you're talking about. I didn't realize you were talking about your predictions.
No,
I mean, I could pull the Cardinals stuff up. I think you had them in the low 90s, if I remember right.
All right, well then the
91.
Phillies get a bye.
They're not getting by because they're not going to win the division, dude.
No, they're not.
Third place. I went back and forth on this quite a lot. And several times over the last 3 weeks, this injuries have piled up for both teams. Third place. As much as it pains me to say this, it's going to be the Mets.
How does that pain you to say that?
Because it means I put the Phillies at second, dumbass.
Okay. But I mean, but still, it shouldn't pain you to put the Mets in third.
I mean, we'll take it. Though.
It doesn't, but I have to.
That's true. I'll still take it. I mean, I'll still take it. I'm not
somebody in second. All right.
I am very curious. As a Braves fan, who is your bigger rival right now?
Right now, probably the Phillies. Honestly,
really,
the Phillies scare me more than the Mets.
Is it the playoff series? Does that kind of like emphasize a little bit of the rivalry? Okay.
No, I like the Phillies moves better.
Reese
I like the
Hoskins
Phillies moves
fast
better,
bite.
and the Phillies are not relying on a geriatric pitching staff to pitch them through an entire season and postseason.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the other things, the reasons that I put the Phillies where I did as far as their win total goes is looking at who they replaced from the first part of last season. Because remember, like for the first half of the season, they had a lineup that included Odubel Herrera and Didi Gregorius. Like you had Johan Camargo playing third base. You know,
I could have told you that was a bad idea.
so I mean. Changing that up alone is worth wins. Yeah. So that's why I took them where I did with that. Not just from the heart, but I think a little bit with the head there. I think those win totals should jump significantly.
Yeah. All right. So as I was saying, I've got the Mets third place, 93 wins. Phillies second place, 94 wins. And I've got Atlanta first place, 99 wins. I think they pull away late because they've got the depth that you guys don't have, and I'm not worried about a geriatric pitching staff falling apart late in the season like the Mets do. Because, like I said, to whoever that guy was in the Earnestly Network, there is no way the Mets are going to get 64 starts out of Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander without one of them getting hurt. It's not going to happen. If you really are delusional enough to think that guys that old are not going to get hurt, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not saying Atlanta's not going to have injuries, but Atlanta's got the depth to cover the injuries better than anybody else does. So, yeah, I'm going to go, but I do think the Phillies are going to pull out just enough to squeak ahead of the Mets because they don't have to play them as many times. Because, good God, that beatdown last year was bordering on historic. It might have been
14-5 or something like that.
Yeah, that was absolutely brutal.
I don't think you're going to even if we didn't change the schedule around for this season, I don't think you would have seen the Phillies do nearly as badly against the Mets.
I mean, a good part of those were in that first half of the season under Joe Girardi.
Yeah, and we finished playing them in August. I mean, a lot of the crazy games that we had talked about, the no-hitter, that comeback was in May. So that was back when they were unrecognizable.
Yeah. So, let's see here. We got 1 Phillies, 2 Phillies, 3 Braves. Yeah, I can live with those odds. I'll take a 3-5 shot from our podcast of winning the division. All right, guys. So that's that was one hell of an episode for the NL East. Guys, it's been a blast. Ron, Todd, we definitely want to have you guys back on throughout the season at some point. Ron, we'll have, at the very least, Ron, I know we're going to have comments from you throughout the year as me and Jason trounce you and Joe in fantasy baseball, hopefully.
Whoa, come on, bud. Come on now.
And hopefully next year we can we might expand the league a little more. Todd, if you do fantasy, we'd love to have you on. I think Jim does fantasy as well, so that's 2 more teams we can add in next year as well. So that would be a lot of fun to
count me in for next year, absolutely.
All right. Guys, any other thoughts, parting shots at your lovely rivals for the NL East before we wrap up for the night?
I'm just going to say happy opening day this Thursday. Everybody enjoy it. It's going to be a fun season.
Yes.
This is going to be a great season.
This is going to be the most wacky season, especially amongst us, that I think there's ever been.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, and we've been doing the preview for the last, 2 months now, because we did every other week. So wrapping it up tonight with the best division in baseball.
Absolutely.
And bring on the real games
and the Nationals.
Now that he says that, I swear to God, if the Nationals get hot for 3 games like the Reds did last year, I'm going to be pissed.
Watch the Nationals.
They're going to start 3-0.
No, they're not going to start 3-0, but
that'd be funny though.
That'd be fantastic.
You
make
would
my day.
You guys would say that up there. Joe, honestly, even the Cubs, man, I wouldn't be shocked if the Cubs managed to get enough of a run together to scare the Cardinals into September. That would be great.
Yeah, it would be fun. Would be fun.
Based off of their second half last year, I mean, they could definitely parlay that into something good.
Yeah.
2 series against the Phillies, I wasn't happy about.
No, that was.
They swept us in September too, so
my youngest son Ben is a Cubs fan because his uncle Alex is a Cubs fan, and if I recall correctly, Atlanta did not do well going into Chicago with a 14-game winning streak.
No, you did not.
So, Ben, if I bring it up to him, will still point that out to me that the Braves fell flat in their face in Chicago.
And you know who closed that game? David Robertson.
Of course he did.
And
that's painful.
I will never forget Joe and Andrew when it was maybe a day or 2 after the sweep happened. I went over to Andrew and Ella's place for something, but there comes Ben. Hey, Jason, did you see that the Cubs swept the Phillies last week?
And I didn't even have to tell him to do that. He just did it by his own.
Hi, Ella.
My wife's cackling in the background. If anybody picked up on that,
and all I could muster was, "Yes, Ben. Yes, I did."
Don't hang him on anymore. Just leave it there.
Good to see you too, kid.
Let me tell you, of my 2 kids, my youngest son is the penultimate troll of them all, which is so highly appropriate that he would be a Cubs fan. It just is. All right, guys. So I do want to publicly apologize for not getting the post up yesterday with the countdown. I did want to mention, I did put it in the post, but Gehrig and Snyder and Melot, I believe, is the 3rd guy. They were the 3 players that were supposed to be featured yesterday. They did not get their pictures up. That is my bad. We had a bunch of stuff going on. I just forgot to put the post up. So tomorrow, just wait and see who the number 2 guys, and Wednesday, the number 1 guys. And Todd, we're skipping 0 because the best 0 was Adam Ottavino, and that's just not happening. Sorry.
I'm fine with that. You got some other zeros in there.
If you're going to have that kind of a countdown and you're going to go into like number 1 being with, like Ozzie Smith, Richie Ashburn, you can't end with Adam Ottavino. You just can't.
Just do Ray Ordonez, the other Met.
If anybody was wondering who Jason's votes were for number 1, there you go.
Okay.
To
you
be
can't
fair,
go wrong with Ozzie Smith.
No, absolutely
Richie Ashburn. Richie Ashburn, an original Met, by the way.
Yes.
Todd,
I'm for Richie Ashburn.
Todd, I'm not putting Richie up in a Mets uniform. Jason will literally.
Oh, well, no. He was in 62. That was when they lost 120 games.
Yeah, Richie's Hall of Fame career happened exclusively with the Phillies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so opening day is on Thursday. I can't wait. It's going to be a phenomenal day. In addition to that, it's my 10-year wedding anniversary on Thursday. So
oh, congratulations.
it's everything just lines up so wonderfully. Thank you.
Ella, congrats on playing up with him for this long. Godspeed the rest of the way.
You know, you're not wrong. And Karen probably says the same about you too.
100%.
All right, guys. So you can find the audio recordings, Anchor, Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, any of the major podcast sites. Also, videos available on Spotify as well as YouTube and Facebook. You can see us live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and on Twitter. Merchandise is at redbubble.com/people/DDAB-podcast. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer, on Twitter at DDAB_podcast. All three of us are on Twitter. I'm at PyroLord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe is at JoltonJoe35. Todd, are you on Twitter at all?
I have an account. Twitter is unfortunately an awful cesspool, but I have one if you want to see it.
Fire away, man, if you want to. Ron, are you on Twitter or anything like that, or do you keep under the radar?
Under the radar.
All right, fair enough. And yet, Todd, you're not wrong about that, but I mean, for sports, I've gotten to the point where I pretty much, if it's not sports, I try and stay out of it because of the cesspool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sports are good no matter where, but you know.
So, guys, we are presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC. We're sponsored by the phenomenal Whiskey and Blade Barbershop in Lidditz. May your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. Have a good night. Have a great season. And opening day is just a couple days away.